A part of me though was kind of wondering if we'd potentially see Hey fellow Force users, what is up? It's Jasmine, the Ahsoka Tano fan, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm super excited. It's time for another episode of The Bad Batch. Last week's episode was pretty fun. I wouldn't say that it made a huge step forward per se in advancing the storyline. Like, there's still a lot of things we have to find out, like what are the Kaminoans planning, what's going to happen in terms of Crosshair being on their tail. It didn't necessarily advance so much in that direction, but it did kind of take us on a little fun side adventure, which the Clone Wars was known for doing as well. And we did get to see Fennec Shand, which I honestly was not expecting. I did not expect her to show up this soon. I was thinking maybe like halfway through or so. And we got to see the Pantorans again. I'm just kind of wondering what's going to happen next. They really have to keep an eye on Omega because she clearly keeps getting herself into trouble. First, it was on Seleucami with Cut and his family, and then she went past the fence when she wasn't supposed to, and then now in the last episode we had Fennec Shand on her tail, so who knows what this girl's gonna get herself into this episode. But that's what's kind of fun about it, because she's a kid and so she's supposed to make mistakes and she's supposed to kind of get herself into trouble, as Sue talked about in the previous episode. The episode also raised the question as to who hired Fennec Shand. That's what the Bad Batch wants to find out now. I do think that the Kaminoans probably are the most likely suspects in this case, because we do know that they spoke about creating some type of super clone to keep their cloning business afloat. We still have to figure out the answer to that question, but I suspect we won't be getting it right away, probably not for at least another few episodes. And the last thing is Wrecker. Obviously, he and Fennec Shand went head to head, and I know I kind of had a gripe about this in the last episode. I kind of felt like Wrecker went down a little too easily. But having rewatched it, I did see that Fennec kind of used his own weight against him, as some of you pointed out, and that just kind of shows how smart and calculated she is. So it made sense that it went down the way that it did. And I think the point of that fight was also to show that he got his head hit once again, as Fennec kind of hit him against the wall, right? Something is going to happen with him and that chip. He even seemed a little bit more irritable to me, especially with Tech. I don't know if you guys noticed that as well. So this could just be showing him slowly changing as his chip is malfunctioning, and who knows what's gonna happen with that. He could try and turn against the Bad Batch. He could maybe even turn against Omega, although I'm not so sure it's gonna happen, because they definitely do seem to have a strong relationship. But he's gonna turn against them somehow, I think, and probably someone like Rex is going to have to help him and the Bad Batch by removing their chips, or showing them how to remove their chips. So yeah, those are the main lingering questions from last episode. Who hired Fennec and what's going to happen with Wrecker? So going into this episode now, the synopsis reads, the Batch strike a deal to take on a mission. So it seems like it might be another kind of fun side episode, but the only way we're going to find that out, guys, is if we jump right into the episode. So let's do that and see what's in store for us. We didn't see Crosshair the last episode, did we? I wonder if they'll show him and the Empire this episode. I get my own comb. Oh, that's so cute. Oh. It's not a toy, Omega. That's so cute. Very relatable. I feel like I do the same thing. Wrecker. Sid. Hold on. Do we know this Sid?
Right. Not a toy.
She's adorable. Who's Sid? Were they in the Clone Wars? Good, they're laying some ground rules for her.
Come and get
She needs it. I love you, Omega, but you keep getting into trouble, girl. Need to stay put.
I only heard about Sid. Never actually met him.
Okay, so we haven't met him.
Information to share earlier.
It's funny, normally Tech is late with the details. This time Echo's late with the details.
Get lost.
Nice people. Omega's gonna figure something out.
Sid heard what happened.
Oh.
What's your deal, Tiny? You're Sid.
Oh, she figured it out right away.
Sharper than your friends over there.
Did the Jedi have a...
Oh, wow.
Thing going.
See, her skill definitely is something, a combination of all their skills.
But now,
Is it a guy or a girl, Sid?
you thinking I care? Please make yourself at home.
Mm-hmm. How do they get the picture of her? From the camera surveillance? Oh, okay, so they have to do something for Sid.
Clearly, the kid's the brains of your operation.
Wrecker gives her a high five. That's so cute.
A rescue. She was taken by Zygerrian slavers who will hold up.
Zygerrian.
It talks. We split.
Oh, don't be mean to Wrecker. Come on, man.
My favorite. Take it or leave it.
Is Sid a little sketchy though? I feel not sure if I trust him. Her. His head again. But when are they gonna put it together, two and two together, that Wrecker's head is hurting him, his chip? Because they know about the chip now, right?
We are gonna stop it from happening to that kid, as well as earn a decent amount of credits once the job is complete. That too.
Tech being technical again.
Don't worry, Muchi. We'll rescue you.
Interesting how she was talking to the doll. Zygerrians, wow, this really feels like the Clone Wars, man. They're just starting up the slave trade again. Doesn't matter that they were shut down already.
You get back to the ship.
But
That's an order.
Oh, she's grounded.
yes, sir.
She's gonna help them somehow, I think. Either that or something's gonna happen to her, but I think probably it's more likely she's gonna help them somehow.
Scar checkpoint dead ahead.
What was that? A Brazak? Oh my gosh, this feels like the Clone Wars, man. Oh, we knew that was coming.
Assure your employer he'll be reunited with Muchi soon.
Who's the employee?
Now,
Is
no
Twi'lek?
need for
Who is that? There must be someone important because they didn't show their face.
Now she's a bad batcher.
She? Oh, cute. Oh, so something's gonna happen to her. I thought either she might help them or something will happen to her. It looks like something's gonna happen to her. But she may still end up helping. So easy for a gonk to hide. Come on, Omega. Zygerrians are always up to no good, man. Where'd she go? Oh, they gave her that little, it has a little escape area there? That's so cool.
Echo? Rika? Anyone?
Yep. They've all been captured. Sorry, Omega. How's she gonna get them out of this? Oh my god, those collars. They use them all the time in the Clone Wars. No. So there's usually always a king or a queen. So is that them?
We need to signal Omega before the scouts find her.
She's way ahead of them already. She's already there. Oh, she's using hand signals. Bless her heart.
4 new slaves to add to my collection.
Oh, he sounds like General Grievous the way he talks about his lightsabers.
The Republic outlawed slavery.
We're not in a republic anymore, Scug.
Scug. They used to use that term a lot too. Oh, he's trying to tell her where their gear is. Oh no, girl. No.
We can make do with one less slave.
They're gonna try and kill him?
Maybe I'll feature 2 more.
So it just shows the problem with the Empire is while the Republic stopped this from happening, evils such as this, the Empire just sits back and does nothing. So they, not only are they evil themselves, but they allow evil to exist, right? Because they don't get involved. was quick. Oh my gosh.
I wasn't sneaking. I was unlocking.
Okay, smart girl. Smart girl.
The rampaging adolescent rancor is not the distraction I was anticipating.
Surprised Wrecker couldn't do that before. Just break it off. And Ahsoka did the same thing in the Zygerrian Arc. She could have used the Force the whole time to take off the collar and didn't. I never really understood that.
We're here to take you home.
Oh, that's Muchi.
Rancor is Muchi?
How are they gonna take that home? Damn. Muchi's bodying them. You can tell she's been kept in captivity, so she hates all of them, right? Poor Muchi, man. These Zygerrians always want people to bow down to them. They want order, just like the Empire does. That's why they get along. Saw us in the trailer. See, the shock doesn't affect them as much because they're wearing the armor. So they have that advantage. Did she grab their weapon? Oh. Damn. She's smart. She's playing this just like a video game. After you take down the bad guys, you grab their weapons. Bodying him.
You have to challenge the Alpha for authority.
Oh. They're gonna have to fight. Giving Wrecker a tough time, eh? Ah, he's hitting his head some more. Good lord. You know what? One of you pointed out in the comments that his chip malfunctioning might be the reason why he lost against Fennec too. So maybe he is losing his touch a bit because of his chip. I don't know. Okay, who is this person? Oh my god, stop. Okay, stop. They did not just bring Bib Fortuna. I should have guessed that. What else does he want? Jabba. I wonder if they're gonna show us why Boba and Fennec kill him later in the Mandalorian. I thought they were gonna kill Sid for a second. Oh, they formed a little bond after their fighting there.
Your bounty hunter is Fennec Shand. She's new to the scene.
We're not swimming in either at the moment.
I guess it's a good thing you met neither. There's more where that came from.
Oh, sweet.
You're looking for work.
This is really giving me Mandalorian vibes with the guild and everything.
Don't worry.
What's she getting at?
I'm good with secrets.
I don't trust it at all. Oh, it ends like that? Dang. Okay, so lots to go over on that episode. Let's see. First of all, something rubs me the wrong way about Sid, and I'm pretty sure Sid's a she. I'm gonna refer to her as a she, so it's gonna be really funny if she's actually a he, but I think it's she. I feel like we have not seen the last of her for sure. There's a lot of people out there like Sid that are kind of, double dipping and trying to make their money, kind of staying out of politics, but just kind of playing all sides, so to speak. Kind of like the guy from the last episode that, Fennec paid, and he also wanted payment from the Bad Batch. There's not always good guys versus bad guys, or even us versus them. They're just people that are kind of in the middle, trying to survive by whatever means possible, and that often means playing all sides, right? So I like that we're getting to see that. It was a fun episode. It definitely, it was a little bit filler, kind of like the last one, in the sense that nothing major happened, but it was kind of a fun little side mission. And nonetheless, it did show us a lot. We got to see the Zygerrians again, which is awesome. I'm definitely getting some serious Clone Wars nostalgia back to the Zygerrian Arc with the slaves of the Republic. I love how they're giving us new things while also giving us some familiar things as well that we've seen in the Clone Wars. A part of me though was kind of wondering if we'd potentially see a Ty Moloch from the Clone Wars. It kind of seemed like potentially the perfect opportunity to reintroduce him, because when we last saw him, he had basically betrayed the queen and sided with Dooku, and he wanted her out of the way because she was becoming too attached to Anakin, and so he would become king of Zygerria. I think that's what his plan was. And so yeah, he never did die, so it would have been cool maybe to see him involved in this new slave trade and trying to exploit the whole situation with the Empire and rise to power once again. He was definitely an interesting character in the Clone Wars. Low-key kind of a creep, I think, but nonetheless still interesting. The fact that the Zygerrians have started up their slave trade again just shows that, first of all, old practices never truly die, but it also shows how little the Empire is getting involved in stopping such evil compared to the Republic. And people always ask, what's the difference between the two of them? That's a major difference right there. The Republic definitely meddled into things like this, and that, I guess, brought about consequences, good and bad. Some saw it as the Republic was kind of overextending their role in the war by getting involved in affairs that weren't their concern. But you can also look at it as they were trying to stop certain evils, and slavery is that you're holding people against their will. And the Zygerrians, even when you think back to the Clone Wars, the Zygerrians queen would say that the weak deserve to kneel before the strong. And if you think about that conversation between Mayfeld and the Imperial officer in The Mandalorian, he says people think what they want is freedom, but what they really want is order. So it's the same idea of people that are perceived as not weak, but powerless, you could say, being overpowered and ruled by the powerful. And I think that's why the Zygerrians relate a lot more to the Empire than they do the Republic, because the Republic believes in freedom a little bit more, I think, compared to the Empire, who believes in order. So what better group of people to bring into the series? Okay, so we got to talk about Omega in this episode. I think if anything, she showed that she can be just as useful to them and protect them just as much as they can protect her. And I think even they're starting to probably realize that now. She definitely has the smarts. You could see it throughout the episode. She picked up right away on who Sid was. She picked up the weapon, the bow and arrow towards the end there. She thought to unlock the Rancor in the first place. And so you could definitely see that whatever her skill is, it definitely has something to do with how observant she is and how quick thinking she is. She may not have the brute strength, but she definitely has the smarts, so she is nonetheless just showing why she is a perfect addition to the team. So I like the fact that she saved the day, especially after last episode, because she had to be saved. So she made up for it in this episode. That scene where she was talking to her doll almost. First of all, it shows her innocence and her youth, but it also kind of made me feel like we were looking back into the past, so to speak. She was talking to a trooper from the Clone Wars, which obviously has ended by now. And this doll, this trooper, is essentially covered in dust. She has to wipe it off. And that kind of just shows how the past, the Clone Wars, the Republic, has all become dust now. But what's interesting is that Omega still finds value in this doll. You know, despite the fact that it is imperfect and is covered in dust, she wants to kind of make it brand new again, make it whole again, find meaning in it. And if anything, that kind of shows that we can still find value in the past. And in this case, I think the people will start to find value in the past with the Republic, with the Clone Wars, once they really start to see what the Empire is all about. I think right now we're still very new. The Empire just became a thing. And even in the last episode, we saw people cheering on as Admiral Rampart was giving a speech. And that just definitely contrasts with Empire Day and Rebels, where people were kind of almost forced to show emotion. And so you can tell that not as much time has passed yet for people to realize that the Empire isn't really as they're portraying themselves to be. And so they will definitely at that point start to find value in the Republic and recognize the way in which the Republic was ultimately better than the Empire. And then of course we see Bib Fortuna at the end there. I knew he had to be someone important when they first showed half his face, because anytime they don't really show your face, you know it's going to be somebody who's typically a big character, and it definitely was. This just definitely gave me Mandalorian vibe. We got to see him show up. We had Sid talk about the guilds and how, don't worry, I can keep secrets to Hunter. So that kind of makes me wonder if there's going to be a bounty on their heads going forward, and it could get messy. But nonetheless, I do wonder what it means for the show bringing Bib Fortuna into this, because we obviously know, if you watch The Mandalorian, spoiler alert, that at the very end, in the post-credit scene, Boba and Fennec Shan basically go in there and they kill him and his guards, and Boba claims Jabba's throne for himself. And so I'm kind of wondering if they are going to use this show as an opportunity to potentially hint at why Boba made that decision. Is Boba even going to show up in this maybe? I mean, he might as well at this point. You had Fennec already, you have Bib in this episode, and so why not have Boba? And maybe we can even see how Boba and Fennec established a relationship in the first place and how they got to the point of where they are in The Mandalorian. And Bib Fortuna also mentions Jabba. It was either him or Sid that mentioned Jabba, but Jabba was mentioned nonetheless, and we know that in the original trilogy, he feeds people to Rancors, and so I'm kind of wondering, is that why he wants Muchi? Yeah, but overall, you know, solid episode, guys. As I said in the beginning, it was kind of a little bit more filler, like a fun side mission, but definitely had some moments that we couldn't overlook at the same time. I'm gonna bring the episode ratings back because I haven't done that on my channel for a while. And I'll say I'd probably give this episode maybe like a 7 out of 10. You guys let me know what you think down below in the comments. As always, I love to keep the discussion going and I learn a lot from you guys, so I do appreciate the comments. And as always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, guys. And I will see you next week for an all-new episode of The Bad Batch. Take care, guys.